You're listening to the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Tanya Lowe, a podcast of curated conversations with C-suite leaders and those who support organizational growth and development. Get ready for inspiring interviews, educational lessons, and thought-provoking discussions that will challenge you to execute something new and innovative that will drive results in your organization. And now, here's Dr. Tanya Lowe.
Hello. You're listening to episode 25 of the Results Driven Organizations podcast with Dr. Tanya Lowe. Using my results driven philosophy of strategy, leadership, teams, and customer experiences, I help organizations develop their best kept secret, their human capital. Have you started preparing for your exit? No, I'm not trying to kick you out of your job, but seriously. And no, you aren't experiencing an episode of Groundhog Day. This is part 2 of Passing the Torch, Succession Planning Strategies for Sustainable Leadership. In the last episode, we discussed succession planning and how it benefits the organization when leaders begin early, like starting on day 1. I think that's what I suggested. And it's a best practice that you start on day 1, but too many times we don't start on day 1, or we're not even thinking about succession planning because we're moving so fast. So let's start with the definition of succession planning. Succession planning is the process of identifying and developing potential successors for key leadership positions within an organization. Identifying and developing potential successors for key leadership positions within an organization. I'm going to stop right there. So when I'm coming in new in an organization, I want to find out who are the players, who are the people, who's getting things done. Those are the folks that I want to identify, because if they're getting things done already, then they're going to be on my radar for potential opportunities during my tenure there. Second part of the definition, it involves forecasting for future and for current and future leadership needs, identifying employees with the potential to fit those roles, and implementing strategies to prepare them for future responsibilities. I'll tell you, when you begin thinking about succession planning on day 1 or today, because today could be your day 1, it helps you with forecasting and preparing the organization for the next level of leaders. It helps you not always be in that, I'm trying to find the perfect person. I'm trying to find the perfect person for this position, because you've spent time developing and identifying and developing people within the organization. So I want to talk about 6 specific areas where day 1 succession planning will not only build future leaders, but will also support you as a leader along your leadership journey throughout your tenure within an organization. So let's get into it. The first one is continuity and stability. When we think about succession planning, it ensures a smooth transition of leadership and prevents disruptions to the operations within an organization. Whenever someone leaves for whatever reason, whether they leave on their own, they are terminated, they move into a new position, it always leaves a gap. And so by identifying and developing potential successors, you ensure a seamless transfer of responsibilities when the time comes. And again, it could be anything like retirement, promotion, anything unforeseen, right? So I think about when I worked in government, because everyone operated in silos. Even when they didn't want to, they operated in silos. And so whenever that person left the organization, there was always a gap. And because there was a gap, it created an opportunity for the person who was gone to be thrown under the bus, i.e., well, Jack used to handle that. Well, I don't know if Jack took care of that before he left. Well, Jack's been gone for 6 months. But if we build a line of stability, right? We make sure that there are no open gaps when a person leaves an organization. It just works better. So as a leader, this person can support you. They can, by becoming your right and your left arm, and they can learn alongside you. They can grow alongside you. And I'll advise you to identify more than one person to spread the leadership love and development. Because when you only have one person, you start putting all your energy into that one person. And while there are other people saying, put me in the game, coach. And while there might not be, you may not be able to expose everyone at the same level, you can still develop them along the way. So it doesn't look like you're playing favorites. Number 2, talent development. When we think about succession planning, it allows you to identify high potential employees early on, provide them with opportunities for growth, for learning, for development, for coaching, for looking at where their skills are and as well as their skill gaps. It helps you to assess their knowledge, their competencies, and create development plans to groom them for future leadership roles. Now, some of you are probably already doing this, and I commend you. I am clapping my hands for you. But others of you, you need to go ahead and start thinking about it. I'm going to give you some time to just think about it. Then I need you to make a commitment to be about it. When you invest in the development of your future leaders, you create a strong pipeline and you cultivate a culture of continuous learning and achievement, right? So that cycle of developing and growing and getting the work done. I've heard people say, well, Dr. Lowe, if I'm doing all this developing, the work's not getting done. The work is getting done. So yes, you're bringing people alongside you to learn, but as they walk alongside you as a leader, you have your eyes on them for areas where they can be developed. And unfortunately, this is an area often overlooked. We oftentimes think that, okay, Bobby doesn't have that position, doesn't have that skill set, so we can't move him up, when oftentimes it's just a small thing that Bobby needs that will give him the skills to do well in that position. Many times it's a myth that if we hire outside of the organization, we're going to hire the perfect person for a position. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you need to bring in an outside hire. But I always suggest that if we can bring someone, we can elevate someone from within the organization, it does a lot for morale. Number 3, mitigating risk. Succession planning helps organizations mitigate risk associated with key personnel leaving abruptly. Losing critical leaders without a succession plan can cause disruption. Institutional knowledge has gone out the door, decreased employee morale. When we have a pool of talented potential leaders, you can mitigate that risk and ensure a smooth transition, minimizing any of the negative impact. And so, when someone leaves, it does create negative impact within the organization. And it's up to you, the leader in place now, to be visioning and think about that, and think about how to make that easy, not only on the organization, but everyone else in the organization. Number 4, strategic alignment. Succession planning enables you to align your talent strategy with the organization's long-term goals and vision. So in order for that to happen, the organization has to have a vision around developing talent or a talent strategy. So when we do this, it ensures that future leaders are well-versed in the organization's values, strategy, objectives, mission, all of that. I think that's something that the mission, vision, objectives of an organization, anyone at any level should be able to talk about it. And so by involving potential successors early on, leaders can groom them to embody the organization's culture, which again will ensure seamless alignment between leadership's transitions and strategic direction. This is very key. It's very key because many employees are department focused instead of organization focused. Yeah, it's okay to focus on your department. However, whatever happens in the department should be in alignment with the organization's mission and values and organizational strategies. Number 5, employee engagement and retention. All right, here we go. Employee engagement and retention. Are you retaining the employees that you brought in? Let's look at, have you retained employees in the last 3 to 5 years? And yes, we've had the pandemic, but even through things like a pandemic, there are strategies that you can employ that will cause employees to stick and stay beside you. Succession planning demonstrates a commitment to not only employee growth and development, but also intention and engagement. When employees are they see opportunities for advancement and a clear path, not a fuzzy path, a clear path for career progression, they're more likely to be motivated, engaged, and loyal to an organization. I'll tell you this, the pandemic opened up opportunities for the real leaders to shine. Many organizations hire people, not all the time based on their skill set. And so I saw in a lot of organizations that I was working with, the true leaders rose to the top. The true leaders were able to jump in there and make things happen. And they were not always the people who were in leadership positions. So keep that in mind, know who is in your organization. Too many times we have amazing people in our organizations and we don't even know who they are. So find a way to know who those people are. Stop depending on the same old people, right? Burning them out. They're burned out. Succession planning helps leaders identify and address skill gaps within the workforce, ensuring that employees have access to the training and support that they need to be successful, which also, again, strengthens engagement and retention. Number 6, competitive advantage. Who doesn't want to have a competitive advantage? If you don't want to have a competitive advantage as a CEO, as a VP, as an executive, just disconnect from this podcast right now. We all want to have a competitive advantage. We all want to rise above every other organization and the things that they're doing because we want to stand out. I call it the stand out effect. So by proactively identifying and developing future leaders, organizations gain a competitive advantage in the market, right? Effective succession planning allows for the cultivation of a strong leadership bench. And I have to even think about that in my organization. So when you think about cultivating a strong leadership bench, it enables the organization to respond quickly to market changes because the market is changing. Changes are happening so fast. So when you're able to grasp those market changes and make adjustments, you can capitalize on new opportunities and maintain your position as industry leaders. And at the end of the day, whatever your brand is, whatever you do within your organization, you want to remain a top industry leader. So even if you haven't started succession planning, let me slow it down. If you haven't started succession planning, or if you didn't start on day 1, it's not too late. This might be new information to you. As a leader, it is never too late to begin. That's the one thing I want you to know. I'm going to make that number 7. It's not too late to begin. Starting succession planning is crucial for ensuring organizational continuity, developing talent, mitigating risk, aligning strategies, promoting employee engagement, and gaining a competitive edge. When we invest in the future leadership of the organization from the onset, you can foster a culture of preparedness, growth, and long-term success. And I want you to know it doesn't matter what type of organization you are. You can be a nonprofit, you can be a 501c3 is a nonprofit. You can be a nonprofit, you can be a for-profit, you can be a mid-market company, one of the top, companies, 100 companies. It doesn't matter. You could be a church. You could be a small business. If you're not succession planning, succession planning needs to be a key part of your strategic plan, period. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Passing the Torch: Succession Planning Strategies for Sustainable Leadership, Part 2. Visit the show notes to see how to grab a copy of Results-Driven Organizations, The 4 Keys to a High-Performance Workplace, and our special gift to you for being a valued listener at freegiftfromtanya.com. Until next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Results Driven Organizations Podcast with Dr. Tanya Lowe. Be sure to review the show notes for the resources mentioned, and don't forget to grab your free gift available at freegiftfromtanya.com. Until next time.